Okay, good morning, everyone. So today we're going to revisit active record relationships again, but we're going to do some one example, and then do um, actually do it in the context of an application in Rails. So last time we were working on our contacts app. So now, what I want to do is I want to switch to the master branch, make sure that I'm in the master branch. And then after that, now I want to create a new Rails application. So Rails new. Let me explain first the kind of application that we're going to be building. So we're going to be building the student and courses model that we talked about in class. So our application is going to have an ability for us to add students and an ability for us to add courses. And then we're going to be able to associate the students to the courses. So the model that we talked about in class, we're going to be building an app for that. And so how this is going to work is that we're going to be able to create courses, and then we're going to be able to create students, and then associate those students to the courses. And then when we go to the course, we're going to be able to see which students are in the course. So that's our application. So first, let's create the application, which would be called school, Rails new school. And remember that you need to be in the master branch and then create your Rails application. Okay. Okay. So now we go inside the Rails application directory, which is school. That's this directory. And remember that we want to remove rm-r git folder inside school. Don't remove it um, outside of school, because if you remove it outside of school, then you're going to be removing your git folder from um, you're going to be removing your git folder from your original repository. So it's very important that you're inside the school directory before you remove your git folder. And you're going to come out of that folder and do git status. You're going to see the folder school here. That's on track so far. So now we're going to add school to our staging area, and we're going to commit with our message git commit dash m first git, and then to that should be it. We're going to push it to Heroku or to GitHub. All right, so that's the first setup. So every time we do a Rails project, that's what we do at the beginning. All right, so now I can branch git checkout -p. The branch now is for my pull request. Again, um, we didn't want to do a pull request with all of our files from our Rails application. So this is going to be better for your reviewer. All right. So now we want to create two models. We want to create the students model and the courses model. Um, so now in Rails, to create a migration and a model at the same time, the class, we do Rails G model. And then remember that we do the name of the model that we're trying to create. So the first model is going to be course. I'm going to create. I need to be inside school directory, the Rails application directory. So school. All right, and then now I'm going to do Rails G model. And so this is going to create a migration that's right there. And then it's also going to create my course model. So at the same time, I'm going to create the students model. So Rails G model student. Again, that created my migration and it created my student model. Right, so I did both migrations at the same time, and because I haven't migrated yet, right? So I have two migrations, and neither of them have been migrated. So now I'm going to go into my database and migrate, and you can see that I have the two migrations there. So I'm going to open up the first one, and then for courses, I want course name, so t string name. And let's see, I also want location, so tree string location, or like maybe a room number. Let's do location. Okay. And then a description of the course. Okay. So that's that would be the columns for the courses table. Now let me open up the students table. So this one is have a first name, last name, and then string. It's also going to have picture student, and so that would be the main information for a student. But remember that we want a student to belong to one course. So each student belongs to only one course. Remember that this is a one-to-many relationship that we're trying to capture. So this is a student cannot belong to multiple courses. He or she can only belong to one course. So what would be how would we represent that in our table? And the way we represent that in our table is that every row in our table represents a student. And so every student has an extra column with the course number. So right here, we're going to add our column t dot integer course underscore ID. So this column is going to tell us what course the student belongs to. Okay. So those are my two tables. So here's the courses table. It just has a name, location, and description. And courses doesn't really have any information about the student because each course can have multiple students. But each student can only be in one course. So that's why we have that information here, which is what course the student belongs to. Right? So now I make sure you save both of those migrations. Now we can run our rake migrate. So you can see that created a courses table and it created our students table. Okay. So now we can start writing the CRUDs for each of the two models. All right. So I'm going to start with the courses because the idea is that we're going to be adding students to courses. So we need some courses to start out with. So now, now I need a place to put all my actions, right? And in Rails, remember that in Rails, we put all of our actions into a controller, as opposed to in Sinatra, where we just put all of our actions into one file. So I'm going to create two controllers, and one controller is going to be for the courses, the CRUD for the courses, and then the other controller is going to be the CRUD for the students. Right? So you Rails G controller courses. Remember that for controllers, we want to have them be plural. Rails G controller courses. So that generates my courses controller. Right now, or generate my my students controller. So Rails G controller students. If we go to my folder over here, app controllers, you see that I have a courses controller and I have a students controller. Okay. So now in my courses controller, I'm gonna start putting in my methods for the CRUD. All right. So first, the CRUD stands for. Let me write that here. So let me have a reference. So CRUD stands for create, read, update, and destroy. So for creating, I need two actions again. I need one action for displaying a form to create a new course, and then an action that actually adds the course to the database. So the action for sending the form is, I'm going to call it new. And then the action for actually creating the course is going to be called create. So these are methods. They're going to have the code for an action. So I haven't created my URLs or my routes yet. I'm just defining my methods. And then the R for CRUD stands for read. So read basically means like, okay, I want to see the information, but for the courses. So for that, we want a place to list all the courses, like some HTML that is going to list all the courses. So typically for that, we call that index. The page that lists everything is called the index. So that's where we're going to be listing all of our courses. Now the update is some other actions, and for update, now we need a page that gives us a form for a particular course with everything pre-filled. So that's edit. That's the form. Send back form to edit. Yeah, let me just add some comments here for these. This one is send back form to add to create. This one is create course. This one is list all courses. And then we also want an action that updates the course. So this one would be called update. And these are very common actions that we're going to be working with. So it's good to memorize the common names for these actions in your controller. We have new, we have create, we have index, we have edit, and we have update. Okay. And then the last one in the CRUD is D for destroy. So here we do destroy. Um, delete. Right, so now I have my actions. I don't have any code on them, but I'm just going ahead and planning out what I'm gonna with the code that I'm gonna be writing. So now I'm gonna do the same thing for my students. So I'm just gonna copy all of this and then go to my students controller and add all the same options, but instead of create course, it's going to be create student, list all students, send back form edit, and then update student and delete. Okay, that's it. Just kind of having a template for what I'm going to be doing. Right. So now that we have an outline of the CRUD that we have to do, now it's easier, and we can just attack one by one. And as you gain more experience, you like once you list what the CRUD is, then you would go into basically automatic mode and then just start creating the views, the routes, and everything that you need. Right. So let's create the first template for this action, the new action in courses. So for that, we go into the views folder and the courses folder, this is the courses controller. So in there, we're going to create a new file called new.html.erb. And again, we can just go down the list and create all the files that we need. Okay, so the next one is create. Do we need a template for create? For create, we don't need a template, because when we create a new course, we're just going to redirect the browser to index. So we don't need one for create. For index, we do need one because we're going to list all the courses. So create one for index.html.erb. Edit, we're sending back a form, so we do need one for edit. So edit.html.erb. Update, we don't need one because as soon as we update the course, we're going to redirect back to index. And then for delete, we don't need one because when we delete a course, we're going to redirect back to index. Okay, so those are the only views that we need. All right, so now let's open up the first one, the new, and then let's write the HTML for that. So that's form action. Okay, so where do we want to submit our form for a new course? So we want to submit it to this, and the method is going to be a post. Okay. So now we can start writing our inputs, and I'm going to do an input in every inside a div. So input type equals the fields for a course name, location, and description. Okay, so this one's text. This is name, placeholder equals course name. Now, next thing is the location. So type equals text, name equals location, placeholder equals location, and div. This one I'm going to do a text area. So text area, name equals, this is the description. Okay. And then my submit button. So input type equals submit value equals save. And then that's my form for creating a new course. Right. So let me just copy this form because we're gonna need it for our edit, and then I'm just gonna go into my edit template and paste it there. It's gonna be the same fields. Right? But what are the changes now? Now instead of sending it to the URL courses, send it to the URL courses edit. Because I want it to go to a different action. When I'm creating a new course, I want to send it to that URL. For updating, I want to send it to a different URL, so it goes to a different action. I'm still going to use the same method type, post, on both cases. All right, so for edit though, we want this to be pre-filled. So for name, we're going to do value equals. Here we need to insert the course. Oh, but we haven't loaded the course, right? So this for now. In our action, courses controller, in my action, my edit action right here, first I need to load my course. So don't forget that. So course equals course dot find and params ID. We're going to assume that we're going to get past an ID, and then we're going to load that course. Right? So now that our course is loaded, now I can use that reference to that course here in my view and say course.name. Okay, so in here in value, quotes, value, I'm going to have course.name inserted in there. Then I want to do the same thing for our location. That location. And then remember that for text area, you don't put a value, but you just put it in here. So course.description. Okay. So that's going to be our form, and then we have a submit as well. All right. Okay, but those are not the only things that we want for our edit form, because so we have our name, we have our location, and then we have our description. And that's the information that we're sending to the server. But a name, a location, and the description is not enough for the server to know which course to update. You know, it's like we're sending it a name, a location, and a description, but then the server's like, okay, but which course did you want me to update? Because over here, we're expecting an ID to be included as well. So in our edit template, we're going to be including the ID as well, but we're going to be adding it as a hidden input. At the top, I'm going to do input type equals, and the name is ID, and the value is .id. And that's it. So now, when we're updating our course, we're sending the name, the location, the description, and the ID of the course that we want to update. Okay, so I think those are our forms. All right, so now we go with our index template, and this is just going to list all the courses. Here, I'm going to do a loop. Courses.
I didn't get that.
Courses that each do.
I'm not sure.
Courses that each do course. And then have a div, and then in each for, I'm just changing things up a little bit here. I'm going to do the course name. And then below it, I'm going to put the course description. And then in a paragraph, I'm going to put here should be the location and the course description. Okay. So I'm going to have a whole bunch of divs with an H4, the course name, then the location, it's a little bit smaller, and then the description. Let's write here in front of it location, so that we know that's the location, right? Oh, but we haven't loaded our courses yet. So let's go to our courses controller. So that, again, this is the index view. So in courses, let's load all the courses. Courses equals course dot all, loading all the courses. Right. Okay, so let's see. Let's go down the list. And okay, so we have our, do we have our code for new? Well, for new, we don't need anything because it's just a form. For create, okay, we need something for create. We need some code there. So our new form is going to send us the name, a location, and a description. So let's create our course. So we don't need an instance variable because we're going to redirect. So course equals new, and then course dot name equals params name, course dot location equals params location, course dot description params, and then I would save course dot save, course dot of course direct to that we're going to redirect to that URL. That URL we're going to eventually make it point to into the index action. Right? So this should create your course. Okay, then this is your edit. So let's just go ahead and do our update as well. So our update is going to be very similar to create. So let me copy the code from create into update. And let's see what we have to change. So instead of creating a new course, we want to load a course. So course.find by params ID. And again, that ID is coming from our hidden field here, ID, which we didn't have in our new form, but we have in our edit forms. Okay, and then, okay, so now we update the name, the location, the description, we save, and then we redirect to courses. And then I think that's it. So now what about our delete? So our delete, we're going to assume that we're being sent an ID as well. So we load the course equals course.find ID, and then we just destroy it. So destroy, and then we redirect to just. You can start to see patterns where, okay, we do something, we redirect to courses. We do something, we redirect to courses. We do something, and then we redirect to courses. And ideally, you would probably want to maybe just do one process. So be able to create courses, and then be able to edit courses, then be able to list all the courses. Or maybe it would be more like you list all the course, you create the index to list all the courses, then you create a course, or that you create the ability to create a course, and then you test that. I'm going a little bit fast today so that we get to the last part, which is the relationships. Okay. So I think that should be it. All right. So now we want to create the URLs or the routes for all of these actions. Because right now, Rails doesn't know, like we put a URL in Rails and we have nothing to send us here to these actions. So for that, we're going to go to the config directory, and under routes, let me delete this. And then I'm going to create my routes. So probably go back and forth. This is my courses. So I need new and create. So for new, it's a get to this new, and then I send that URL to the courses controller and the new action. And for create, remember that we're specifying a post. That is courses. That's because my new form, I'm sending it to the courses URL, and then I'm using the post method. So post courses. And then let's send that to the courses controller and the create action. Now for index, that's a get courses, and then we send it to courses. That's the URL that's going to take us to the index action right here. All right, now edit and update. So for edit, we're getting the form, so that's a get request. Courses, edit, and courses, edit. So we're sending it to the courses controller and the edit action. Submit the form, we want to send it to, no, yeah, that's right. So when we're submitting the form, we want to send it to courses edit, but with a post method instead of get. So post courses edit and courses update. So here we do a get request, we send it to edit. When we do a post request, we send it to update. Right? And for the delete, we're going to do a get request and courses delete. That one we're going to send to courses delete, which is here. Right? So again, I'm going a little bit faster, but you can pause the video and find something. All right, so that's a lot of code that we wrote. So we might have some bugs. So now let's test it. So you start your Rails server, Rails S -B $IP, and then preview running application. And I'm going to make it bigger here. Okay, so now let's try going to courses. It's empty. Okay, we haven't placed a link to take us to the new course form. So let me go to my indexes, and then right here, I want to put href courses new and new, and then it. So refresh. Okay, so I have my link there. So if I click there, now I have my form. So let's say that we have the course algebra. The location is Durham. Description is introduction to algebra. And save. All right, so we have an error, invalid authenticity token, and that's because I forgot last time to add a thing that we should add to every Rails application. Right, so this is go to controllers and then application controller, and here we do skip right. All right, so skip before action, colon verify authenticity. Okay. Okay, so that's so that you don't get this invalid authenticity token error. So let me go back and then submit my form again. All right, so I have my first course, Algebra, Durham, and then Introduction to Algebra. Let me create another course. So this one's going to be French, and this one's going to be in this one is Inverse French. Okay, so I have my two courses, right? But I don't have an ability to edit. I need a link for that. So now let me go to my index controller. And so what I'm going to do is that at the end right here, I'm going to add a link to edit. So after the description, that's going to go to courses edit, and then In the URL, I want to pass the ID, so question mark ID equals course.id. And say edit. Okay. So if I refresh, have an error. See, so here I'm referring to this course right here, not the instance variable course. So let me remove that symbol. Okay, so now I have an edit there. And if you hover over it, you'll see that in the URL, it has ID equals and then either 1 or 2. So if I click there, you can see that it takes me to my my form. It's already pre-filled. Go back, click on that one. It's that one, French form. So let me, right here, I made a mistake, say beginners. So let me edit that. Should be an apostrophe there. So let's see if this works. So click save, and then, yep, it updates it, right? All right. So that's the CRUD for courses. So now, now we want to work on the CRUD for the students. All right. As you gain more practice, so this creating the CRUD is going to should become faster. You should become faster and faster at it, so that at some point we're just going to skip creating the CRUD and go straight into more complex stuff. So let me just clear some clutter here. Close index, close edit, routes. All right, so now I have the students CRUD. So I have new for a student, and then I have create for a student. So this one I'm going to go a little bit slower. Now for the student, remember that we're working now with relationships. So if you think about it, a student is in these two concepts. We have the student concept, and then we have the course concept. And you always want to think about it as a parent-child relationship when you have a one-to-many relationship. So the parent is the one in the relationship, and then the children are the many in the relationship. So here, which one is the parent, which one is the child? So the course is the parent because each course can have multiple students, just like each parent can have multiple children. All right, so now we want to specify those relationships in our models so that we can use those relationships to load from the database. Once we load one model, then we can use the relationship to load the other models. So let me go into my app and then my models folder, and then open up student. So student here, I want to specify in Active Record, I want to specify the relationship between the student and a course. So here I'm going to write, so let's think about this. So here, student is a child of a course. So so another way of thinking this is that a student belongs to only one course. And that's one way to remember which relationship to use. So here we're going to use the belongs to relationship, belongs underscore to, and then colon course. Okay, so we're in the student model. And why do we write belongs to course is because the student belongs to one course. So we're specifying the parent, we're specifying that this is a child of course. This one kind of makes sense because like if we say in the language student belongs to course, that kind of makes sense. But later on, when you have other concepts, those concepts using the belongs to terminology may sound a little weird, but you might still have to use the belongs to if that concept is a child of another concept. Okay. Now let's go into our course and add the corresponding relationship. So here in course, we want to specify the relationship that a course has with students. So a course is a parent of students. And a course has many students. So we write has many relationship, and we write students in plural. Again, student we write belongs to course singular, and then in course we write has many students plural. So these specify our relationships, and these relationships are stored in Ruby. So it's very important to understand that these relationships don't do anything with the database. The only thing that does something with the database are our migrations. And you can see that here we have not touched our migrations. And these are specified in Ruby because we're creating Ruby methods. These things create Ruby methods that allow us to write the SQL to load from the database. If we load a student, then we don't have to write the Ruby code to load the corresponding course for that student. We have a method called course. For a course, we don't have to write the code to load all the students for that course. We have a method called students that's going to load it for us. All right. So now we specified the relationships. Now we want to start with our form. Well, let me open up the migration so that I remember what are the fields for a student. So for a student, we have a first name, last name, picture, and a course ID. Okay. So this is our students controller. So now we want to go to views, our app, views, and then students. And then we're going to add our form. Let's just add all the templates that we need here. So we need a new.html, .erb. We also need an index.html.erb. And then we need an update, or not an update, edit.html.erb. So those are the actions that we need to create. All right, so let's start with the new. So this is a form that we're going to be sending to the student's URL. And the method is going to be post. Okay, and then our fields are, first one is first name. And then let me copy that because then they're all very similar. Last name and picture. And this one's going to be the submit button, and then put this one here for the course. So this one's first name. This one let's change to last name, picture. See if we picture here. And then this one, let's come back to that one. This one is of type submit. And then the value is going to be save. All right. Okay, so for this one, instead of having an input where the user can type in the course, we want to have a drop down where the user can select from the existing courses which course to add the student to. All right, so instead of an input, we're going to have a select, and the name is going to be a course ID. Okay. And then now here, what we want is we want to create an option. So option tag for every course that's possible. Right? But we need to load the courses first. So where will we load the courses? Well, we would load them in the action so that we can use them in the form in this template. So this is the new template. So we need to load them in the new action. So right here, courses equals course.all. So it's loading all the courses in my new action. So that's interesting, right? Because in our courses new action, we didn't really have to do anything there. But now in our students new action, now we're loading all the courses. That's some extra information that we need to generate our new form. Okay. So now, now I can do a loop here that iterates through all the courses and generates those options in the HTML. Here I'm going to do courses that each do course. Okay. And then the reason I'm doing each is because for each course I want to generate that options tag. Right? So here we do option, and then the value for that option, I want it to be the ID of the course. Course.id. And the text that the user is going to see, I want it to be the course name. And I want the ID because this is what my form is going to be submitting. It's going to be submitting course ID. So the select works sort of like the equivalent of if we had an input type text name equals course ID. The user would have to type in the ID of the course that they want this user to belong to. But instead of typing the ID, we have the drop down so that the user can select from the courses. Okay, so that's our new form. Now we also need to go into our index form, and then here we want to list all the students. And we also want a link. Let me just add a link for creating a new student. So this would be students, new student. And then here, students that each do student So I have here in this variable, I have an array of students. I haven't created yet. I haven't created that variable in my index action because I'm in my index template. So let's go into my index template and load all the students, or yeah, students equals students that each do, okay. And then here I want to just display that first name, and then after it, student last name, and then let's just display that for now. All right. So in my course, in my students, let's see how I'm doing with the CRUD. With my students, I've created the new, and I created the list all students. I haven't created the create action, but let's test it. But before, we have to go to routes and add our routes for the actions that we've created. So I'm going to go here to routes.rb. That's in the config folder. And here I'm going to start adding my routes for my students CRUD. So get students new courses new. I'm not going to send it to courses new because that would create a new course. I'm going to send it to students, the students controller, and then the new action in the students controller. And then for actually submitting that form, students, and then sending it to students create. Spell students here, students. And then to list all the students, do a get students and students index, because I'm sending it to the index action. Okay. So now let's test that. So let's go here to students URL. And then, so that seems to be okay. Let's click on new student, and then we have our form. And the cool thing here is that you can see that our drop down has all the classes. So we can select which class they belong to. So let's look at the source code that was generated for this form. So right click here and then click on view page source. And then this is the source code that was generated. So here's the body. This is all stuff that Rails creates for us. So right here, here's what was generated. Here's the cool thing. Select name course ID, and then we have option value 1, option value 2, algebra and French. So when we select algebra and then we submit this form, we're going to be sending for course ID, we're going to be sending the value 1. If we select French, we're going to be sending the value 2. Because that's what we want to store in the table. We want to store the course ID. We don't want to store algebra or French, the string French or the string algebra. We want to store the ID of that course. All right. So now we want to actually write the code to create the student. So let's go to our students controller. Where is it? After a while, having so many files open, it starts to get confusing. So okay, so here it is. So now this is our normal CRUD of creating. So we don't need instance variable. So student equals student dot new, and then student dot first name equals params first name, student dot last name equals params last name, and then student dot picture equals params picture, and then we save it. So student dot save, and we redirect to students, right? All right, let's test it. I think that should be it. So first name Bob, last name Smith. Picture, I'm going to leave that blank for now, and then they're going to be in algebra. Okay, so it's not, seems to be an error. Let's look at our index, make sure that all right, that looks okay. So what could be the problem? So let me open up a new terminal and see if it's, let's see if it's actually being saved in the database. So let me SQLite 3, and then DB development that SQLite 3 tables. There's the students. So select star from students. Okay, so it doesn't look like it's being saved to the database. See, maybe I made an error. Student. Oh, yep. So I forgot the course. So let me exit from here. You see that I didn't add to my list of things course. So student that course ID equals params course ID. All right. So so one cool thing with these relationships is that Active Record knows that, okay, a student should belong to a course. So Active Record doesn't even generate the SQL to try to save to the database. It just doesn't save it unless you have a course ID. So let's try that again. So for our name, Bob Smith, picture blank, algebra. All right, so Bob is there now. Okay, so let's create another student. Alice Parker. Let's add her to algebra as well. And then another student, Colin Jenkins. And let's add that one to French. And then let's see. All right, so that's it. So now let's see. So that's pretty much it so far. So the last thing, the very last thing, is that let me go to courses. In my courses, I want to make it so that when I click on a course, somehow it takes me to another page where it shows me that course, and it shows me all the students that are in that course. All right, and this page is also a very common page. Basically your index lists, just gives you a list of all your items or your courses or all your students or anything. And then you want to click on one, and when you click on one, it takes you somewhere else where it shows you more information about that. And that's going to be in our courses controller. And typically that action is called show. So F show. And it's called show because we're showing a specific course or specific student or specific anything. All right, so so now let me go to my index in courses. So I have my index in courses right here. And then what I want to do is I want to create a link to show. So href courses and then show question mark ID equals course.id. And show. Let me refresh. Let's see. Oh, I misspell ref. Let's refresh. Okay, so we have show. So if I click on that one, now I get a 404 error because I haven't added that to my routes. So now I need to add courses show, and that should go in the routes.rb file. And that's an extra route for courses. So get courses in show. That one I want to send to courses and then show controller. Yeah, you can see that all of our URLs that are related to courses have some way or other courses added to the beginning. And so that's kind of to specify what the URL is for. So now in my courses controller, I have my show action. So now I need a template for that in the courses folder. Let me create a file called show.html.erb. Okay, so that's my template. So in my courses controller, I want to load the course. So course equals course.find Rams ID. So here I can do H1 and course.name. So let's go back and then click on show, and then you can see that we're in algebra. Click on show, and then now we're in French. We can go back. Right, so now below here, I want to show all the students. So let's do 5 students. So now here, I want to iterate all the students. So, normally I would have to, in my course action right here, then, okay, I loaded my course. Now I need to load all my students for that course. But with Active Record relationships, once you load one course, now you can load the things that are related to that course, or you don't have to load them. You can just call the method. So that's what we're going to do right here. So we're going to do course, and then we're going to make use of the relationship in course that has many relationship called students. So course that students, so course that students evaluates to an array. And then now we can iterate on this array. So after that, we can call that each due student. And then we can display our student. So here I'm going to display student that first name and student that last name for each student. So let's see how that works. So now if I click on for algebra, let me click on show. You can see that now it shows students and then Bob Smith and Alice Parker. If I go back for French, it shows Colin Jenkins. So now I have this small app where I can add students, right, to courses. So now the very last thing is that right here, you can see that I have to type in over here courses and then students. And so I don't have an easy way of doing that. So in my template, I'm going to create some navigation. So now that's in views, layouts, and then application.html.erb. So this is the layout. So this is what gets rendered. This is the top HTML and the bottom HTML that gets rendered with every action. So here after body, I just want a really simple menu. So I'm just going to create links to courses. And this is so that I have links every page that I'm in. I can just quickly switch between them. So ahref equals courses, and then here we go students. Okay. Now when I refresh, I have, let me just put paragraph right after that so that it's only one line. Okay, so now I have courses. So if I'm in students, I can switch to courses, or I can switch back to students. And then in courses, I can create a new course. And then students, I can create a new student. And so that's it. So that's a lot of information, but you can rewatch the video, pause it where you need to. And part of it is stuff that we've already gone through, like CRUD. Now is just kind of doing it faster and doing two CRUDs at the same time, and then adding relationships to it. Right. So for next Thursday, the homework that's going to be due on Thursday, not on Monday, but on Thursday, it's going to be creating an app where you have a one-to-many relationship. So you need to have two models, and you need to create the two CRUDs for each of those models. And so we're going to be, we're going to be doing that. And you're going to be coming up with what those two concepts are. So in this example, we have students and courses. So you can come up with anything that makes sense. So for example, you could have pet owners and pets, or you could have cities and users. So you could be creating many users and then adding them to one city. So each user can only be in one city. Yep. Or you can have, yeah, you can be pretty creative here. And on Monday, we're kind of going to go over some of what you guys have come up with. So think about what you're going to be creating, and then on Monday we're going to be discussing that. And if you have any questions, you can ask them on Monday as well. So class will have some time for that. All right, so that should be it. Thank you for everything and have a good week.